Hello and welcome to Mass Effect 2. This game was released in very early 2010, and it is of course a direct sequel to Mass Effect. It's still a tactical RPG, but compared to its predecessor, it's a lot more tactical and less RPG. Now, I'm quite excited about this playthrough I'm going to be doing, since it will be really unorthodox. I played this game 4 times already, so I figured that this time around I want to make it more exciting. So this run will be unusual in 2 ways. First, this will be something akin to a 0% run. I will only go through the main plot and go out of my way to avoid doing side quests. The way the game progresses is real convoluted, so in time it will become clear why I'm doing a run like this. The second unusual aspect about this run will be mods. In the first game I used only 2 mods, whereas here I will use around 14 of them. Mind you, I won't have all of them applied at once, but rather showcase beforehand how the regular game plays like. So we will essentially have a daily mod of the day until I have all of them applied. These mods will all be visual or gameplay changes, as well as some fixes. Nothing overly major when taken individually, but all combined will surely be an interesting experience. I will also describe how to install the mod of the day in the description of the video. In fact, this introduction video starts with 2 mods already applied. The first mod you can already see in action right here on the title screen. Normally, if you wait long enough in the title screen, the game will play a cinematic trailer from E3. But that is slight spoilers. Therefore, I replaced it with the Mass Effect 2 logo that you just saw. The second mod that I have applied is called A Lot of Textures, or A Lot in short, and it is the successor to the Improved Textures mod for the first game. It is quite complicated to install, but it's worth the effort, as it brings the graphics quality to a whole new level. Just like with the first game, this introduction video will be mainly me talking about the plot, and the very first part of the intro to the game. Don't expect action until the second video in this playthrough. And also like with the first game, I will not tolerate any spoilers in the comments. If your comment disappears, that's most likely the reason why. So what plot is there that I want to talk about? Well, remember how at the start of the first game I talked about the prequel novel, Mass Effect Revelation? Well, it turns out that there is also an interim novel between the events of Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2, called Mass Effect Ascension. It's not quite as essential as the first novel, but it is still a good read and gives nice background information. So give it a try if you haven't done that yet. But first, let's summarize the important plot points in the series up to this point, from the new perspective that we gained at the end of Mass Effect. 50,000 years ago, the galaxy was ruled by the Prothean Empire. But their rule came to an abrupt end due to the Reapers, machines that harvest all advanced life in the galaxy. One day, a vanguard of the Reapers awoke and sent a signal to the Citadel. There, the Keepers received the signal and opened a secret dormant mass relay to dark space outside of the galaxy, which allowed the rest of the Reapers to come flooding in. Protheans stood little chance against the Reapers, but they did manage to come up with a plan. They built a secret research and cryostasis facility on Ilos, as well as established a network of beacons that would direct other Protheans towards it. The facility went dark until the Reapers were to leave. But they and their agents lingered for years, and so only a handful of top scientists of the Prothean Empire survived until the Reapers returned to dark space. At that point, the scientists managed to reverse engineer Reaper technology, the mass relays, and create a small copy, which they called the Conduit. Using the Conduit, they managed to infiltrate the Citadel and hack its systems so that a Reaper signal would no longer influence the Keepers. Fast forward about 50,000 years, and in Mass Effect Revelation, the Systems Alliance discovered a Reaper artifact. Not knowing what it was, they decided to create an AI research base to study it and attempt to create an AI based on it. Now we know that Reaper technology has the power of indoctrination, and so the research team slowly went mad. Information got leaked to the Blue Suns mercenary gang, who attacked the base and stole the artifact. This attracted notice of Saren Arterius, then a Council Spectre. After some adventures, he and Anderson, then a lieutenant, infiltrated a Blue Suns Element Zero refinery. There, Anderson recovered a survivor from the Alliance research base, Kali Sanders, whereas Saren recovered the Reaper artifact. This artifact led Saren to Sovereign, the Reaper vanguard for the current cycle. Sovereign attempted to activate the Citadel mass relay, but the Prothean sabotage worked, and the Keepers ignored the signal Sovereign sent. Thus, Sovereign and Saren tried to find alternatives. Saren forged an alliance with the Geth and gained access to their formidable fleet, but that was still not enough to challenge the Citadel defense fleet head-on. Thus, he went to investigate Prothean beacons, obtained the cipher to their information, and found the location of the Mu relay that leads to Ilos. There, he used the Conduit as a backdoor to the Citadel, which allowed him to gain access to Citadel control. During the battle for the Citadel, Saren used Citadel control to close the Citadel arms right as Sovereign flew in, providing Sovereign with protection against the Citadel fleet and time for it to open the relay to dark space manually. But they were slightly too slow, as Commander John Dalton Shepard followed right on their heels and defeated Saren, as well as reopened the Citadel arms. That was enough for the Citadel fleet to take Sovereign down before he opened the dormant relay. The Systems Alliance fleet also provided cover for the Destiny Ascension and saved the Citadel Council. In return, the Citadel Council granted humanity a seat on the Council, which, thanks to Shepard's recommendation, went to Captain Anderson. Now, on to the events of Mass Effect Ascension. They follow the other plotline of Mass Effect and heavily involves Cerberus. That's right, the same notorious Alliance Black Ops organization. Let's recap their history first. Cerberus was responsible for luring Shepard's original squad of Marines to a Thresher Monast on Akuz, leaving Shepard as the sole publicly known survivor. But he was not the only survivor. In fact, Cerberus captured the other survivors and brutally experimented on them to learn more about Thresher Mods. Whether Cerberus also caused the initial Thresher Mod attack on the colony of Akuz is not certain, but probable given that they later on single-handedly destroyed the human colony of Chaska by planting Reaper technology that turned all its colonists into husks. Moreover, Cerberus once more lured an Alliance Marine squad, this time under Rear Admiral Kahoko, into a Thresher Monast in order to cover up the tracks of Armiston Baines, a late Cerberus operative. Admiral Kahoku then found out that Cerberus was working on more inhumane experiments for a project to create a super soldier. However, Kahoku attracted Cerberus' attention, got captured, and executed. And lastly, Cerberus brought Rachni samples from Noveria, also for experimentation and to see if they can be controlled. Unfortunately for Cerberus, they could not be. The Rachni overran the Cerberus depot where they were being kept in. And unfortunately for a few planets, the Rachni also spread and wrought havoc on Alliance troops there. So what are Cerberus up to in Mass Effect Ascension? Well, if you don't want to hear spoilers, then feel free to skip a few minutes. For the rest, I'll describe the most relevant plot points. The story in Mass Effect Ascension focuses on Cully Sanders again. She has become a tutor in the Ascension Project, an Alliance biotic training facility. There she discovers the next Cerberus plot. One of her students, a girl named Gillian Grayson, talented biotic but borderline autistic, has been manipulated by Cerberus. That's right, Cerberus is up to the same tricks again. They managed to bribe Gillian's father to join Cerberus, and continually apply experimental drugs on Gillian to improve her biotic powers, at the cost of her physical and mental health. Cully, Gillian, and others flee to the Terminus Systems, hoping to be beyond the reach of Cerberus. But instead, they fall into a trap by a rogue Quarian trying to sell humans to a mysterious race called the Collectors. The party gets saved by another Quarian on his pilgrimage, and then they all decide to hide in the Quarian migrant fleet. They find the Quarian Conclave and Admiralty Board in a disagreement. Should the Quarians stay together in a migrant fleet as before, or should they try to spread their resources in search of a new world where they would finally settle down again? Meanwhile, Cerberus is informed about Gillian's whereabouts and launches a sneak attack on the migrant fleet, trying to extract Gillian for further study in their own labs. After a tough battle with some help from Gillian, Cerberus troops are neutralized. In the end, Cerberus decides that it is not worth spending more resources on retrieving Gillian, and lets them all be. Meanwhile, the Quarians decide that it is best to send out scouting parties in search of a new world after all. And now enter Mass Effect 2. The story takes place 2 years after the events of Mass Effect. Incidentally, there was about a 2-year gap between the release of the two games as well. Well, that's when the main story takes place anyway. The intro of this game takes place not long after the events of Mass Effect. So, let's go ahead and start the game. But before we do, I'll just say that even though a lot of people think highly of the changes introduced in this game, I'm not one of them. I'll talk more about the changes once we get to them, but I'll just say that I hate most of them. Don't get me wrong, this is still a fantastic game, but there are just too many needless changes that rub me the wrong way. My first complaint, in fact, is right there on this title screen. Just look at what they did to the logo of the game. Right, this logo. The whole point of it is that the letters look like Reaper alloys, the ones the Citadel and mass relays are made of. And the curve going through the letters represents the curvature of planets. Here they lazily slapped some clashing, poorly painted 2 to the side of the logo and call it a day. Well, sure, that embodies Bioware's attempt to make the game darker and edgier, but also embodies all the poor choices they and EA made in this game. But let's go past the title screen to the actual game. There is a bit of extra loading time that sometimes happens on the title screen. That is because the game tries to verify all the DLC. I'll note here that while the first game had 2 DLC, this game has well over a dozen. To the point that all the important DLC, the ones that add characters, assignments, and vehicles, at the moment cost twice as much as the base game. And yes, that does not include the non-essential ones like extra weapons and appearance packs. Speaking of which, I have all the important ones and the ones that were released for free, but not the paid trivial ones. Those are really not worth it. Also, this game, like the first game, has achievements. But they are also slight spoilers, so I will get to them all later. I'll just say that I have most of them, except for the Insanity one, 2 DLC ones, and 2 that require the use of certain powers. So there's not much left to collect. And before starting, I just say that I'm also very much not a fan of the intro to this game, to put it mildly, and you'll see why shortly. But let's go. New game, import Mass Effect 1 character, and I want to import John Shepard, level 55. Loading screens. And combat difficulty. Just as usual, I will start with the highest difficulty and tone it down whenever it proves to be too much. And you can see that there are a lot of difficulty settings. And I'm not sure why I have Insanity unlocked. I don't remember how exactly this game works with the difficulty levels, but I know that initially you don't have the higher levels unlocked. You have to play the lower levels before they become available, and I don't think I beat this game on hardcore, but I may have, I don't really remember. And Insanity is the difficulty intended for players seeking the ultimate challenge. Enemies are tenacious, react quickly, have heavily upgraded weapons, and use their powers mercilessly. This mode is only recommended for players who have completed the game on hardcore difficulty, which again, I don't remember if I have, but we'll see. Of course, auto level up is disabled, subtitles enabled, squad power usage is active, and there's autosave, because why would you not have autosave? So let's start the intro to this game. Go. Well, actually, right before then, there's actually a service history. Import save game details. The name is John Shepard, because we were not allowed to add another word into it. Rank, or level, is 55 out of 60, not too bad. Military specialization is vanguard. Psychological profile is paragon, mostly, although it's mostly paragade. But paragon means Commander Shepard followed the paragon path, obviously. Rex, or not Rex, survived the mission on Vermeer. Ashley Williams was killed on Vermeer. And the Council was saved by Commander Shepard during the attack on the Citadel. Now let's go. Engage.
Shepard did everything right, more than we could have hoped for. Saving the Citadel, even saving the Council, humanity has the trust of the entire galaxy. And still, it's not enough.
Our sacrifices have earned the Council's gratitude, but Shepard remains our best hope.
But they're sending him to fight Geth. Geth. We both know they're not the real threat. The Reapers are still out there.
And it's up to us to stop them.
The Council will never trust Cerberus. They'll never accept our help, even after everything humanity has accomplished. But Shepard, they'll follow him. He's a hero, a bloody icon. But he's just one man. If we lose Shepard, humanity might well follow.
Then see to it that we don't lose him.
1 month after the devastating Geth attack on the Citadel, the galactic community struggles to rebuild. The Alliance fleet made a tremendous sacrifice to save the Citadel Council and earned humanity membership in the prestigious group. Now the Council is forced to respond to evidence that the Reapers, enormous machines that... Well, you'll be able to read that by pausing, I guess. The Normandy.
Disengaging FTL drives. Emission sinks active. Board is green. We are running silent.
We're wasting our time. 4 days searching up and down this sector, and we haven't found any sign of Geth activity.
3 ships went missing here in the past month. Something happened to them.
My money's on slavers. The Terminus system is crawling with them.
Picking up something on the long-range scanner. Unidentified vessel. Looks like a cruiser.
Doesn't match any known signatures.
Cruiser is changing course. Now on intercept trajectory.
Can't be. The stealth systems are engaged. There's no way a Geth ship could possibly...
It's not the Geth. Brace for evasive maneuvers!
Presley!
Kinetic barriers down. Multiple hull breaches. Weapons offline. Somebody get that fire out.
Shepard!
Distress beacon is ready for launch. Will the Alliance get here in time? I'm not doing this just so they can find our frozen corpses. Get everyone onto the escape shuttle. Joker's still in the cockpit. He won't abandon ship. I'm not leaving either. I need you to get the crew onto the evac shuttles. I'll take care of Joker. Commander! Kate, go. Now. Aye, aye. Everybody in! Go! Go! Go!
And you can see why exactly I'm not a big fan of the intro. But we have the journal, so let's read the journal. Prologue, save Joker. Go to the cockpit, get to Joker in the cockpit on the upper deck of the Normandy. Well, let's go.
Mayday! 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 This is SSB Normandy!
This is still the same Normandy, indeed. We know our way around the place. Everything is closed.
We've suffered heavy damage from an unknown enemy.
The elevator isn't working. This is broken.
Come on, baby, hold together. Hold together.
And this is all decompressed. And of course, there is no sound in space. That's a planet. And we need to get the Joker. but we cannot move any faster than this, because there's no gravity anymore. We're basically using magnetic plating to keep ourselves attached to the ground. But there's a nice shield protecting Joker, so let's get to him and get out through here.
Come on, Joker. We have to get out of here.
No, I won't abandon the Normandy. I can still save her.
The Normandy's dead. Just like us if we don't get the hell out of here.
No, we just have to... Oh no. They're coming around for another attack. Watch the arm.
Yes, that's right. Shepard is dead. The Normandy is destroyed. The series is over. Game over. Move along. Nothing else to see here. Mass Effect 2.